Imagine the chaos that ensued when Hurricane Katrina, a monstrous storm, slammed into the Gulf Coast on August 29, 2005. The devastation was immense, with nearly 1,400 lives lost and billions of dollars in damage. The Federal Emergency Management Agency FEMA faced intense criticism for its response. But surprisingly, a recent poll reveals that Americans still hold FEMA in high regard, despite calls for its dismantling. But here's where it gets controversial. While many criticize FEMA, a significant portion of the population believes it is indispensable during disasters. Let's dive into the details and explore the public's enduring support for FEMA, even in the face of political turmoil and budget cuts. For decades, major hurricanes and other disasters have sparked criticism of FEMA, the agency tasked with managing the federal government's response to such crises. After Hurricane Katrina ravaged Louisiana and Mississippi, investigations into FEMA's missteps led to significant changes. Complaints resurfaced during the response to Hurricane Helene in September 2024, and when President Donald Trump took office, one of his earliest actions was to call for FEMA's abolition. Yet, 7 months, several disasters, and thousands of staff reductions later, public support for the agency remains robust. According to a new USA Today Ipsos poll, among 924 adults familiar with FEMA, the poll found that 86% believe FEMA services after a natural disaster are very necessary or somewhat necessary. This support spans party lines, with 83% of Republicans and 95% of Democrats agreeing on FEMA's importance. Craig Fugate, FEMA administrator from 2009 to 2017, was not surprised by these results. When disasters strike, people expect FEMA, he said. Even folks who don't like big government still want the federal government to help. The poll also revealed that 71% of respondents agree that FEMA plays a critical role in helping communities prepare for and recover from natural disasters. This sentiment is shared by 64% of Republicans and 85% of Democrats. Additionally, 69% of respondents believe that eliminating FEMA would leave states more vulnerable after major disasters, with 56% of Republicans, 87% of Democrats, and 67% of independents agreeing. And this is the part most people miss. Only 15% of respondents support cutting FEMA's budget to reduce government spending, with 26% of Republicans, 16% of independents, and just 4% of Democrats in favor of this idea. Local communities often lack the resources to respond effectively to disasters. Carl Crow, a Louisiana native and conservative, has experienced numerous hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes. Despite being self-supporting, he acknowledges the necessity of FEMA. Local smaller communities just don't have the resources to respond in a timely manner like that, he said. Crow supports FEMA overall, believing it can help many people, despite instances of mismanagement. The conversation around FEMA gained national attention after Hurricane Katrina. The storm, which crossed the southern tip of Florida and made landfall in Louisiana and Mississippi, caused widespread destruction and criticism of the response at every level. The USA Today Ipsos poll of 1,023 adults found a partisan split in perceptions of the response, with 44% of Republicans approving and an equal percentage of Democrats disapproving. If a similar disaster occurred today, roughly a third of respondents think the federal government's response would be worse, while only 22% believe it would be better. The poll also highlighted the need for a well-coordinated and well-funded emergency response system, with 84% of respondents supporting this idea. Additionally, 81% believe Katrina demonstrated the need for better disaster preparedness in coastal areas, and 70% think the federal government should play a major role in disaster response. This sentiment is shared by 65% of Republicans and 87% of Democrats. Furthermore, 83% of respondents believe state governments should play a major role, and 79% think local governments should do the same. Decades of discussion and criticism have shaped FEMA's role. Fugate noted that FEMA often becomes the target of blame due to its visibility and perceived bureaucracy. More than a dozen studies and reports after Katrina recommended changes, many of which were enacted. Criticisms also emerged after Hurricane Andrew in 1992, with calls for FEMA to be more proactive and responsive. After Hurricane Helene in 2024, experts warned that some criticisms of FEMA were false or artificially created by foreign governments to sow dissent. The Trump administration's first actions included creating a federal panel to review FEMA and reducing its staff by as much as a third. To coincide with Katrina's anniversary, more than 180 current and former FEMA employees sent a Katrina declaration to Congress, warning of the agency's impaired ability to respond to a multi-state catastrophe. The nonprofit Stand Up for Science, which helped organize the letter, reported that some signatories were placed on administrative leave. FEMA has not directly responded to the USA Today poll, but has emphasized its goals of reimagining the agency and building a system based on local execution, state management, and federal support. However, confidence in the federal government has fallen since Katrina, with only 30% of those polled indicating they are very confident or somewhat confident in its ability to handle major disasters. While opinions on state and local governments are more divided, a slightly higher margin of people express confidence in their ability to manage disasters. Carl Crow, who was deployed to the Middle East during Katrina, noted the significant improvements in communication and coordination between federal, state, and local officials since then. However, he does not support increasing FEMA's funding, believing that better management is the key to improving the agency's effectiveness. As the debate over FEMA's future continues, one thing is clear: the agency remains a vital part of the nation's disaster response, despite its flaws and criticisms. What do you think? Should FEMA be reformed, abolished, or left as is? Share your thoughts in the comments below.